when you don't like a certain genre of music, or if you don't speak a certain way, or you don't act a certain way,
You're
you're
not black.
deemed, you're acting white, quote
Yeah,
unquote.
yeah.
And I think that's quite damaging. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to 30 Years and Running. I'll be your host, Christian, and each week my friends and I will be looking at life seen through the eyes of 30-somethings. Whether it's things like dating, social media, or mental health, we'll be looking at the past, present, and future of being in your 30s. Yeah, man, it is what it is. So, anyway, welcome to 30 Years and Running. I've got my boy Serge on the sofa today. What's
Yep.
going on?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all good, man.
We actually haven't seen each other in a minute.
We haven't seen each other about a year, I think.
About a year. Oh, wow.
So when I came to Sky to do all the filming, because that was
Was that
November?
the last time we saw each other?
No.
Oh.
Was that November time? I think it was just
Yes.
before Christmas, so I want to say it was November time.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So yeah, it's been a year, but
In a minute.
I suppose for context, so Serge and I worked at Sky for 3.5 years together, similar to Bex, who you guys met in the Quarter Life Crisis video. So yeah, we were all part of the same team. But yeah, I suppose since then, been on a couple nights out,
Yeah.
rapped a little bit,
Yeah.
chopped it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a very good guy who yeah, I've got a lot of time for. So no, it's good to have you.
Thanks
on
for
here,
having
man.
me, bro.
No worries. So it's Black History Month.
Yeah.
This month. And I suppose I wanted to talk about the black identity, blackness, and just what it means to be black. And I actually want to start off with like a slightly kind of random like icebreaker, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was watching Fresh Prince the other day,
Yep.
and for anybody who's been living under a rock for the last 30 years, you've got two characters in there. You've got Will Smith, who's the kind of woke black teenager from Philly.
Yep.
And then you've got his cousin Carlton,
Yep.
who's the kind of preppy Republican who's kind of spent most of his time in Bel Air, which is like a really kind of affluent area in I think it's in LA. And so like one of my questions was, which one about those two? Well, it's two questions really. So which one about those two are more black? And is Carlton a sellout?
Those are powerful questions.
Yeah.
All right. So the truth is, besides the obvious like skin pigmentation making both of them black, right? The truth is, black people would readily identify with Will Smith's character, right? Readily identify with that more than kind of the whatever Carlton embodied as a character. And then did Carlton sell out? I feel like, thankfully, we're starting to change that narrative now about what it means to be black and actually having affluence or even opulence, like associating that more with blackness still, as opposed to, oh, there's one shade of black, therefore one experience or representation of black, and most of it is ascribed to struggle. Thankfully, that's slowly changing. But I mean, we say that, but we still readily kind of accept affluent black people that have come through a stereotypical path, right? I'm happy to accept an affluent rapper, right? As opposed to somebody that, you know, comes from a privileged background, speaks proper, and dresses vastly differently to how you expect a black person to dress.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think sometimes people get it a little bit twisted, and this isn't just black people. It's just, I think it's just any race really. Like they almost mistake identity, or they attribute your identity to all the cosmetic stuff. So what clothes you wear, what food you eat, what music you listen to, that kind of thing. Yeah. When I suppose really for me, like your identity, and I suppose in this instance the black identity, it's more kind of your experiences. It's more your upbringing, it's more your kind of worldview. And to me, to kind of almost answer my own question around whether Carlton is a sellout, like I don't think he is a sellout, because in all the episodes, I've never heard him once like denounce his blackness at any stage. And in fact, I think in one episode actually where I think Will and Carlton, they were trying to apply to this black fraternity,
Right.
and so in the episode they had Carlton doing like loads of chores and stuff like that, and in the end he didn't get into the frat because the guy was saying that he wasn't kind of black enough. And then like Carlton's rebuttal to that is like, you know, we're both, I can't, this isn't verbatim, but he says something like, we're both running the same race, you know, why are you trying to trip me up? And being black isn't something I'm trying to do, it's something that I am. And so like that for me, like regardless, if you kind of remove the fact that he kind of he supports the Republican Party and he dresses a certain way and he listens to Tom Jones or Barry Manilow or whatever it is, like that at the core of it is like he's as black to me as he is to Will. Yeah. But like you say, I think because sometimes from people's perception, like your identity is like inherently linked to kind of all the kind of the trivial stuff like the clothes you wear, etc. Yeah. From like ostensibly, like Will was the more identifiable character, and the one who is more quote unquote black. Yeah. But yeah, I don't really see it like that. Maybe it's like a really naive way of kind of putting it, but
because the counter, not argument necessarily, but the counter question, right, would be why does Carlton, like, what does Carlton hear in, let's say, Tom Jones's music that makes it relatable to him, right?
The thing is, it might not even have to be relatable to him. He might just like the sound of it. Like, I don't think it makes you any less black. If I met a black person and they liked country music and that's all that they liked, I wouldn't say that they're any less black. I think what I would kind of anticipate, or what I would kind of presume, rightly or wrongly, is like they grew up in an area that was heavy with country music. Yeah. Or matter of fact, maybe they just heard it one time and they were just like, actually, this is kind of cool. Like, I'm gonna kind of back this.
There's that kid, Little Nas.
Oh, the guy who made the Old Town Roads.
Yeah. Because what I was gonna say to that is, often you find though, and I hate using this term, but they bring kind of like a black twist to it. Right, like, so it's fine, like loving or enjoying a different genre of music or a different genre of even film, for example, as opposed to kind of the stereotypical black narratives that we often see. But often, even when you enter into those different spheres, what you find is, for a lack of a better way of saying it, they kind of blackify it. That's a terrible way of saying it.
I know what you mean.
That's a terrible way of saying it. Don't come for me, but yeah. So yeah, do you know what I'm trying to say? So I don't know. I'm just trying to think, like, is there? I wonder if it's even possible to completely be void of some of the things that we've now come to see as stereotypes in black people. Is it possible to be black and be completely void of those stereotypical things? Like you said, we rapped and all of these different things. Yeah, you're like well educated. I'm somewhat educated.
Yeah, but I mean, to that point, like education is quite a broad term, I suppose. Yeah, like I'd say I'm book smart, but I'm not very like like my common sense isn't that great. I'll be honest. So yeah, it kind of depends on how you look at it, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, I think just to answer your questions about the stereotypes, I think that they'll always follow you in some way, shape or form. Like, for example, if Lil Nas or whoever, basically, it doesn't matter what genre of music you like or whatever, if you walk into a shop, there's a chance that you might be followed around. Oh, yeah. And, you know, if you're driving a nice car, you might get stopped. And I suppose to quote Kanye West, I think it was on... All Falls Down when he says you're still a nigga in a coupe. Yeah, like that follows you around. That stereotype of you supposedly wanting to steal something or having stolen something, like that follows you around whether you've got money or not. Yeah, just ask OJ. I was about to break into like story of OJ.
No, it does, and I think for me, that's when I get upset with a particular type of black person that will deny that those things happen. That will kind of say, no, it's all a meritocracy. Just work hard, comply. You shouldn't have resisted, or all of those things, as if it can be helped.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So that for me, the definition of a sellout is when you're.
Yes.
That's when you're kind of spewing that kind of narrative.
I would agree with that.
I equally get frustrated, not as much as those type of people, but I get frustrated when, you know, people in the black community ostracize other black people in the community for stuff that is cosmetic. So I do get frustrated when people say that, maybe not Carlton because he's like a complete like caricature, I suppose, but when you don't like a certain genre of music, or if you don't speak a certain way, or you don't act a certain way, you're deemed you're acting white, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite damaging, considering the history of our people and the fact that there's always been this need from the outside to cause divisions, and so when it's happening and we're doing it ourselves, like that's a real problem for me, and it's an unnecessary problem for me. And like, just speaking from experience, I suppose because of the way I speak, like I've had it before where people are like, "Oh, you sound white," and I'm like, what does that mean? Because I know words, or because I speak in a certain accent. But to be honest, I don't get bent out of shape when non-black people say it, because to be honest, their experience...
That's interesting.
Yeah, but I don't... Sorry, let me rephrase. Like, I don't get as bent out of shape when white people or non-black people say it, because, like, I suppose for a lot of them, their own experience of black people has been what they've seen on TV.
Right.
But when it comes from black people, and it makes me kind of sad that, you know, if you're kind of well-spoken or well-educated, that's inherently linked with whiteness. Yeah. Whereas, you know, like, why can't like black people be well-spoken, or why is it a surprise when they're well-spoken? Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I was going to say that I feel like it speaks to how deeply ingrained and embedded our concept of blackness has been, and how much everything has played a part in that kind of ingrained image. Yes, you got music, yes, you got films, but equally you got something as simple as a newspaper headline. All of those different things, in just the consistent portrayal of blackness on a global scale at this stage, is of a specific narrative, right? Where it's like aggressive, not necessarily the most well-spoken, very bombastic, and like
bombastic, I like that word.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Just like very confident, very braggadocious, bravado, bling bling jewelry, and all those different things. And I ain't saying we don't have those things, and I'm not even saying we're not inclined to lean in those ways, but
there's nothing wrong with those things as well.
Exactly.
Just
no, I agree. There is nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying that that's not the only. We're not a monolith. That I think that's the biggest thing that people need to learn throughout whatever's been going on, especially in the current climate that we're in and everything that's happened over the summer. We're still not a monolith. Do you know what I mean? No matter what banner or what slogan is being said, we can all come under that slogan, or we can all say, yeah, you know what, I support that. But equally recognize that there's going to be disputes and disagreements and different points of views within our community, because we need those different points of views, firstly. But secondly, we need representation of everybody that has a collective experience of being black, i.e. walking into a store and being followed around because the presumptive, like the presumed ideology is you're going to steal.
So on that point, I suppose, like, because I was speaking to my friend Richard, we kind of got a topic actually, but we were talking about social media, but we ended up talking about being stopped by the police. And like, I basically said, like, I've been driving for like 10 years. Granted, I don't even drive that much, but I've only been stopped by the police twice.
Right.
And basically what I was saying to him is, weirdly, I felt kind of slightly disconnected to some of my other black friends, or just black people who I know in general who've been stopped more. It's almost like I didn't have the complete black experience because I hadn't been stopped as much as them. And I suppose what I wanted to ask you is, like, have you been stopped and searched, or...
Oh, yeah. On various different occasions. I don't drive, so when I do start driving, I'm sure I got that experience to look forward to. But listen, just plain walking down the street.
Yeah, it's par for the course, man.
Plain walking down the street, get stopped and searched. And
but just quickly, so I suppose just quickly on that, like, part of the black identity is being able to understand what that feels like. Yeah. And like I say, that's not linked to any kind of cosmetic thing like clothes and all that kind of stuff, really. So
yeah, no. I hate the fact that that it almost feels like a rites of passage of blackness, right?
Yeah.
That oh, I'm now black because I've experienced this.
Yeah.
Right. Or this solidifies my blackness.
Yeah. Or you're not
yeah.
as black as me, quote unquote,
Yeah,
because you haven't
been through those things. But the honest truth is I think when you kind of see it from when you stand back and say, okay, as a child or in my adulthood, like as in developing into adulthood years, my developmental years, these are some of the experiences I had. When you're able to stand back as a fully grown man and just look at some of the structural things that our world has established for itself and how that relates to black people, for me, all I get is a sense of helplessness. Like it's a massive systemic thing, right?
Yeah.
So listen, if you've been able to in some way be a little less scathed, right, in the sense of like you've only had it a few times, that should be like a celebration more so than even like oh well then clearly you're not black enough. Like no, it's like, hey, look, thank God you got away a bit more.
Yeah, so funny enough, the way I kind of initially phrased it in that conversation I had with Richard was I talked about this idea of black privilege.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was quite the right phrase, to be honest. Like really the phrase should have been black and lucky, because you know, I haven't been stopped that much. I think even going further back with that, like I hate to kind of stereotype this, but I've grown up in a 2-parent household.
Yep.
Whereas a lot of people I know, or a lot of my black friends, they've only had their mum or their dad around, like either one of the two as well. Like I've gone to private school for pretty much all of my life as well. So based on that, like I consider myself black and lucky, because at the end of the day, like I am just like a black boy from Forest Hill who got lucky with those things. Yeah. And so like I really want to kind of I'm very conscious about the position that I'm in, and I'm also very conscious about the fact that I feel the need, and I don't want to say pressure, but I'm just conscious about the fact that because of the kind of advantages that I've had, that I need to like fully put on for my people. Like, and I don't mean in the sense of like I need to be kind of standing on top of on the hills. Not like that, but I just mean when I go into every job, or if I'm in any situation, like I know I need to kind of put on, and I know I need to kind of represent fully. Yeah. And I've been given, you know, a lot of the tools to do that as well. So, you know, just to kind of circle back on the whole acting white thing, like I'm cool with that, to be fair, because I kind of know within my heart that I'm actually just trying to put on for black people. Whether people think I'm acting white for the way I talk, then that's kind of on them, really. So, well, question I have then is this: do you ever feel, what's the word, that you're seen as the exception? Black people, not you, Christian, but black people. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, I do know what you're trying to say. Not at the moment. No, I wouldn't say. I'm literally just trying to think of an example where that might have happened, actually, and I can't think. No, I think you have to get to a certain status before you start to transcend race. Like I feel like the obvious example of that is like celebrity status. Yeah. And I'm not saying you have to be a celebrity to kind of get that. Oh, you're not black or whatever that phrase might be. But I feel like it's more apparent when you're in celebrity status. But no, I don't. To answer your question, sorry, like I don't think I've kind of got there. And like, to be honest, I don't know if I want to get there. Well, I was just about to point out, like, what I mean by that is not so much whether you want to get to be the exception. It's more what I'm trying to say is non-black people have a perception of black people, and therefore when that perception is not met, they'll say, oh, you're the exception because the rest of them are like X, Y, Z. Even though you might be like, no, I'm as black as anybody else. Do you know what I mean? And I'm proud to be black, right? But for them, it's more like, oh no, I can work with you. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Or I can be around you. And even if he was like, well, listen, if he was around me, you might come across a lot of black people, right? Because I have black friends just like I have any other ethnicity around me, right? Or race, I should say. But I just feel like sometimes, because there's two things I want to go. Sometimes is that concept of
you're the exception because you behave differently, or do you know what I mean? Whatever that means for them, whether that means you're more relatable, right, or you're more non-threatening, or whatever the case might be. And equally, it means also, oh, I can work with you. I can, whatever the case. The other thing I wanted to talk about though is this whole concept of mindset, right? Because sometimes, like when I was growing up, the whole screwing thing was a whole thing, right? When I was going to school, like, listen, if you screwed the wrong person, you was on the bus. Like I remember being waiting for my bus to go to school. The wrong bus passed, but these boys were up on the top floor. They're like kids, but some roadman were proper, just like standing waiting for the bus too, right?
Yeah.
Those boys started screwing them and being like, yeah. Listen, they chased that bus. Bus driver let them on.
Jeez.
Until now, I always wonder what the hell happened, right? But anyway, I'm going somewhere.
Sound like there must have been a madness.
Yeah, like what the hell happened, right? But that was like the whole thing. Like you screw someone, certain things were gonna go down, and I lived that mentality for a while. The minute I didn't associate with that, the minute I didn't feel the need to assert, I think for me, speaking for myself, I wanted to see how much, like, I thought that's what it meant to be a man, or I thought that's what it meant. Yeah, it meant to be like a man that can hold his own and all this stuff, like being able to screw, hold my own, blah blah blah. When I started kind of disassociating from that and realizing, hold on, I don't need to do that. I don't need to care about postcodes. I don't need to be involved in any of that stuff. None of those things ever happened to me.
Yeah.
When I cared about it, like literally I'll be in a certain area and like someone would roll up on me like, oh yeah, where ends you from? That would happen to me. When I no longer like thought that way, it's never happened to me.
Yeah.
Ever. And I go to any area, but I'm just like, they would probably classify me as a civilian. Like, he's not involved.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Then let me go through, right? So I'm just wondering whether part of the reason why you're black and lucky, if it's a mental thing.
It might be a mental thing as well, but I think part of that is because I never grew up in so I grew up in Forest Hill, right?
Yeah.
It's not like a bad area, but I wouldn't say it's like a great area either.
Yeah.
But because I was never in that situation really, like I was never on the road too much. Like I had my dad with me, I had my older brother, so I was never really in that situation. And even when I was in my friends, I think just the circles that we moved in, you know, we never really kind of came across that too much. But yeah, I do think it probably is a bit of a mentality thing as well, because I just think when you're a road guy, which I am not, to be clear, I think there's this kind of idea, this is like hyper masculinity, like you're talking about.
Sure.
Whereas, like, to me, that's always it's never made sense to me. Like, how does that profit me by screwing you? How does that profit my people by screwing you? If anything, it's harming my people. So, like, why am I going to even kind of why am I going to put any energy to that? Like, that's a weak mentality to me, to be honest.
Oh,
and
okay, go on,
like,
finish
for me
your thought. I have a
personally,
question, but yeah, go on.
I think that's a weak mentality because you're kind of you're like bragging and you're kind of putting up this front really, when, like, to me, not to psychoanalyze them, like there's probably some deeper issues that you need to deal with, and that's the reason why you're kind of projecting yourself onto someone else. And I'd rather use that kind of, if there's negative feelings there, I'd rather use that negative feelings to put that into something more positive.
It's gonna sound unrelated, but it isn't.
So,
what do you know about the Stormzy chip thing, right?
Yeah.
Do you want Stormzy to respond?
From a rap perspective,
No, you can't. And that's the thing. A lot of people that I spoke to have been saying, like, "Oh no," from a music perspective. No, just point blank, yes or no. Do you want him to respond?
No, I don't want him to
Why?
respond. Because all that it's going to do is just snowball the beef, and then it's going to turn into something that is beyond. It's going to go beyond wax.
Yeah.
And you'll get a situation where, you know, Stormzy might roll up and Chip is there.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
Yeah.
And then, like I say, all that's doing is that's negative energy within our people. And it could be easily avoided.
Yeah, see, I agree with you 100%. So because of what you were saying about kind of what does that do for our people, I just felt like based on the climate that we're in right now, based on the summer that we've just had, we don't have time. Like Stormzy is a multi-millionaire, affording people to be able to go to places like Oxford and Cambridge and stuff like that. We don't have time to revert back to, oh, he's just a grime artist and stuff like that. No, put some respect on his name. Same with Chip, like they have careers, right? When we go back to like roadman antics and like, oh, you're rolling up on people's houses, like how are we still here? We need to evolve from that.
That's what I mean. This is the problem because, like you say, Stormzy's a multi-millionaire.
Yeah,
but he's obviously still got a little bit of street mentality, which is crazy to me because it's like you don't need to be doing this.
Yeah,
I'd get it if it was just some any guy off the road, but you don't need to be doing it. You don't need to feed into this negative energy, and like, what good is it doing?
Exactly. So for me, I've actually been glad that he hasn't responded because I just don't think it's necessary for any one of them. I don't mind the street mentality, to be honest with you. I say that in the sense of like just having street smarts. Do you know what I mean? Like, to be honest, like, just to make clear, like I grew up with both parents at home too, right? And sometimes things just still visit you, or sometimes your curiosity gets the better of you because of the people that you're around, and so you want to know more about certain lifestyles and all of that stuff, right? And thankfully for me, I grew out of that, and just felt like, nah, that's not for me. But like when I see like Wiley, like, yeah, man, trust me, Stormzy has to respond. I'm like,
don't pay attention to what that
bro,
guy.
you're grown.
Man.
Like, you're grown.
He's a clown, man.
You're grown. And like for me, he's the epitome of like stuck. What's the word? Like, when someone's stuck in time. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like stuck in time. You could have been like a record label owner by now, bringing through the young ones and like multi-millionaire, fully established businessman. And you're still like on their level. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like instigating, like you're that person in the playground, like, oh, did you hear that? Oh, make sure. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, we can't have repeats of that. Do you know what I mean? And by we, I mean the black community as a whole. Like, we need enough representation of people that grow up, establish things, and move on.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. We need to understand that the fight that's not where the fight is. Yeah. The fight is, like you say, is higher up. And the fight happens, I think you said before, like the systemic kind of racism.
Oh, yeah.
Like the fight is at the top, where we need to get people in more positions of power, and we need to start affecting things from the top down, rather than us doing something, not all the time, but doing like dumb shit literally on a street level. Yeah. And so that's why I don't even pay attention to Wiley, because he does sound like an old man who's just kind of stuck in time, and he's just trying to stay relevant by atting Stormzy or whoever, and just always kind of putting his beak into stuff as well. Yeah. Just before we finish off, actually, the last thing I wanted to just quickly touch on was, did you hear the other day around there's a black guy who worked for Pure Gym. Okay. And he basically... Oh, go. Finish. And he basically put up a post. I don't think he put up a post, but his name was attached to the post.
12 years a slave.
Yeah. So like, for anybody who didn't hear about it, like there's a post from Pure Gym. I can't remember what area it's from, but he put up a post talking about this new exercise regime during Black History Month called 12 Years of Slave. And he was trying to basically... This workout came from a black guy himself, and he was basically trying to celebrate in some way like Black History Month by coming up with this new training regime, and he got a lot of heat for it, unsurprisingly.
Listen, he deserves all that smoke.
Yeah, but it was a funny one, because like, I don't know if you ever saw his Instagram page, but his Instagram page was, previous to that, is like full of like social like police brutality, and he was very kind of pro like social justice and very kind of anti-social injustice, that kind of thing. So he like, from the outset, if you looked at his page, you would think he is quote unquote woke. Yeah. But then he comes up with something like that, and it's all kind of got flips upside down, really. But I suppose the question I was going to ask to kind of finish this off was, again, like when he does something like that, when he comes up with something that was obviously really blinkered. Yeah. But yet you can kind of see from not just his social media posts, but just him generally, like I kind of the impression I got was he was actually genuine about it. He doesn't like police brutality, and he was very pro BLM. And the reason why he kind of put up that post is just he was kind of like, because he's from up north as well,
Right.
so he didn't. I felt like he probably didn't have like many black friends or even any kind of family who could actually say, well, no, this is a little bit kind of wider than mark, really. But again, like, is his blackness? Is he any less black than the rest of us because he did something like that? Or is he just slightly misguided and that was just like a rogue post?
Yeah, for me, I think this is a good one to kind of close on. Like, I think for me, it's not that he's less black. It's just a mistake, a harsh mistake that was made, right? But just because you're black, and that's the thing as well. Like, people say stuff like, you know, we'll say nigger and stuff like that, and some of my friends hate that word. Me in particular, I know I don't have a leg to stand on, but I do say that word, and I don't care which black person or white person wants to come for me for saying it. I'll say nigger, whatever. I'll say it. And I will not tolerate a white person saying it. I don't care how many white people just say, but you say it. Shut up.
But they said it in the
Shut
song,
up.
though.
Yeah. Shut up. I don't care. Don't say it. Do you know what I mean?
What am I supposed to say? Brothers in Paris?
Yeah. Say brothers in Paris. Yeah. Say it. Because you guys aren't using that same energy for our credit loans and our mortgage loans and all of these different things. Yeah. If you got the same energy for that, then sure. You know what I mean?
Say nigga all you want.
Yeah, say that all you want. Give us the same energy for everything else.
Yeah.
Because this is a word you guys are fighting for. Do you know what I mean? Right? But anyway, this guy in particular, something you said that made me feel like, oh, you said, from all appearances, he looked like he's woke. And that's the thing. You can borrow quotes and you can borrow stats and you can borrow memes all over the place that can make you appear to be woke. It doesn't mean that you're educated enough to speak on black things on behalf of black people as a black person. And let me just caveat that by saying I'm not qualified to speak on black things as a black person. You want that, go to David Alasoga, go to Akala, go to the various people that have prided themselves on educating themselves and then being able to represent black people in a certain way that the majority of black people are happy with. That's not to say that there's not going to be some, pockets of people that are like, no, Carla doesn't speak for me. Fine. You go and find someone else that speaks for you. That's cool. But all I'm trying to say is, yes, black people, all of us have a right to speak on our experience as black people. But when it starts reaching the level where it can hit mainstream consciousness, like, if you make a mistake, you get a little slap on the wrist for sure. I don't care if you're black, do you know what I mean? Like, listen, even me saying the whole thing about using the N-word and stuff like that, if people come for me for saying that, I will understand. And I will respect what they're saying. Because like I've already said, I don't have a leg to stand on. I just know I like saying the word. Do you know what I mean?
Facts, man.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I just like saying the word. It doesn't mean I'm right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean I'm right at all. I get it. And for every black person, conscious black person, that's like, I'm so disappointed in hearing that. I was having a great time listening to these two black men exchange these ideas. And then they started saying the N-word and that just boiled it all down. I'm sorry. Do you know what I mean? I'm so sorry. Do you know what I mean? Because
that's all you can do, really, just apologize.
Because I'm sure that's probably how Stormzy feels, right? For every people like me that are judging him saying, nah, man, Stormzy, be on this pedestal. And he's like,
he's like, well,
do you know what I mean?
At the end of the day,
man's got them. Man's got
I'm
those
just a nigga from Thornton Heath, man. What do you expect?
Do you know what I mean? Like, every so often, I hate to even say this, but every so often some stuff is just going to flare up from us.
That's what I mean. Like, he is a nigga from Thornton Heath. You got to expect that he's going to do some wild shit he's going to do some wild shit from time to time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts before we close? I'm just curious to know.
On that guy. I think it might be
done.
Oh no, we're right.
Yeah.
No, do you know what? At the very start, I didn't even, like, before I even found out he's black, I was just like, this is, he's completely wide of the mark with this. And then when I found out he was black, I was like, I'll be honest, I was like, he's a bit of a sellout to me. So I remember I did, like, literally in our group chat.
Slave? Come on.
Huh?
I'm just thinking 12 years of slave, bro.
But there's none of it adds up, to be honest. Like, how is that in the copy itself as well? He was basically saying it was like an epic film, and there's a quote in there saying like slavery is hard and so is this, and I was like, you have no idea, my friend.
I feel so bad for laughing.
Yeah, but it was so blinkered, man. But yeah, when I found out he was black, I was like, you're a sellout, because to kind of circle back on the original point, like, or the original conversation we were having about Carlton Banks, like that to me was like, he was kind of fully denouncing his blackness with that, in my opinion. In my opinion, because to compare slavery to a workout and trying to say it's just as hard as that, and obviously not having any kind of clue what impact it has on our people, that for me is like, that's an immediate red flag, and 100%. That's a red card. You're off the pitch now, to be honest.
Well, that's paramount. It's literally a continuation, right? A build on from Kanye West's "Slavery Was a Choice." Yeah, because working out is a choice.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
The two. There's no. I don't care who you are. There's no way you can compare slavery to a workout.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to finish off on this as well. Yeah. So like that was kind of the kind of the middle point that I had with him, and then almost like the final point was, I felt bad for him because I was seeing the comments that he was getting on his Instagram, and a lot of it was from black people, and they were saying, yeah, I mean, like,
that smoke.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised by it, but at the same time, I was just like. Just some of the comments he was getting called, you can imagine, like he was getting called Uncle Tom and sellout and all this kind of stuff, and I think it's
house nigga.
Yeah,
for
basically.
Sure.
But what's funny is so in the group chat I did I played like Story of OJ, and then in the first bit and he's like, I'm not black, I'm OJ. His name was Simp, so I was like, I'm not Simp, I'm OJ. And then it's got the line saying, house nigga, don't fuck with me. Yeah, so I played a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I felt sorry for him in the end because I genuinely think it was a mistake, and even if he didn't have all those posts up, those kind of pro BLM posts up on his Insta and stuff like that, I just think people make mistakes sometimes, and like I say, I don't think he was malicious in what he posted. He genuinely thought he was, celebrating Black History Month, but it was obviously way wide of the mark.
Yeah.
But you can't be. I think there's a big difference to me in terms of being racist and being ignorant. Like, for example,
that's a good point.
Like at work, for example, you might have had this yourself, but I've had someone at work say to me, like, "Can I touch your hair?"
Bruh, with this kind of...
Yeah, you must...
Oh, yeah.
But, I don't see that as someone being racist or anything like that. No. I just think they're a little bit ignorant because they obviously haven't spent much time around black people. They might not have any black friends, and they're just curious. But it's come off in a really...
I've never understood that fixation, to be honest. Like, I've never understood... Like, why?
I get it in terms... Because they don't have the same hair. They just want to... feel where it, I don't know.
Listen,
you're curious about stuff that you don't know about, I guess.
Listen, there's the stereotype of black men and you know what I mean, genitalia as well, right? That doesn't mean they should go around just saying, "Oh, look, can I just see it?"
Yeah, but that's a lot more intrusive, isn't it? Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
But even,
it's a similar logic though.
Yeah,
like, I just think it's less intrusive to touch someone's hair than see the dick. But
what? It's like, what are you expecting? Like, it's hair. Do you know what I mean?
Bruv, yeah.
It's hair. Like,
yeah.
But go on.
But yeah, I think that that's an ignorant thing to do. Yeah. That's not malicious or anything like that. And likewise with this guy from Pure Gym, I just thought it was ignorance because he obviously, I just think in these times when you're thinking about making a decision like this is where you need black people around you to be saying like, this isn't right. Thanks for watching 30 Years and Running. Please subscribe, comment and share. See you next week. Peace.